Gentlemen, we have almost 600 people here. I want to thank everybody that took the time to get here. I want to catch up on the super chats, and then we're going to get into this business meeting. Now, this business meeting, I'm going to play it. It's 2 minutes. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Let me see. Aegis on X. AEGIS is the one that posted it. I've seen a lot of people post it, but more specifically, I want to just use his tweet because it's the perfect 2 minutes. We're going to get in there. I know Colt Eastwood talked about it. This is the business meeting from 2024 with Xbox. That's exactly what this is. This is a mirror image of it, and many of the infighting that's pretty gross, to be honest with you, that's happening with PlayStation has already happened with Xbox. You saw a lot of big personalities in Xbox, so we don't name names here, leave the brand, go to PlayStation. Now you're seeing PlayStation guys leave PlayStation to go to PC. And folks, it's the way that the industry is changing. And you know something, Sony moved a lot quicker than I thought, because usually they drag their heels a bit. I just think that they saw what Xbox was doing, and they want that success. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pull us away from the screen so I can bring up this business meeting. I'm going to hide us in the background. Sorry you don't see anything right now. Let's bring that to the stage. Okay, folks, take a look. Again, I want to shout out Aegis on X for posting this. Take a look, and again, it's 2 minutes.
I have a number of questions I'd like to get to today. I'm going to start with the platform business. As Sony Interactive Entertainment and the industry as a whole move towards multi-platform gaming, how will you protect the value of the PlayStation console?
The PlayStation experience is not just about the gaming console hardware, nor it's not just about the content as well. It's an experience in a community that shares this excitement. For over 30 years in the past, we've been committed to being the best place to play and publish. And this has helped us establish a dedicated community of 124 million players and then an available network over the 4,000 creators. PlayStation console experience is designed to enable immediate gameplay in an immersive and accessible way. We're doing this in a completely integrated way, designing and manufacturing all aspects from the chips to the backend system. And we continue to look for new and innovative ways to broaden our reach and bring our content and a service to the players. The value of the PlayStation console is that still the best place to play, and it's growing as we reach an even broader audience.
And you're quite right that we're continuously exploring new ways for players to interact with their franchises. It's important to realize that we're really thoughtful about bringing our franchises off console to reach new audiences, and that we're taking a very measured, a very deliberate approach in doing that. Particularly on the single player side, our tentpole titles, there's such a differentiated, the point of differentiation, I should say, for the PlayStation console, the real showcases of the performance, of the quality of the hardware. So we want to ensure that players get the best experience from these titles. And we're very thoughtful about how and if and how we bring these titles to other platforms.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Cut and dry, to be quite honest with you. I know that he did say, that he kind of fumbled a little bit there. Jamie Moran, I want to bring you back, and let me just bring us here. What are your thoughts on this? Because again, this is one of those situations. I know there's going to be some people in the chat like, well, wait a second. Well, this is a couple of weeks old. Why are you talking about this? Well, because Jez Corden wrote a story yesterday, which was great. I will add it. I'm not using it for context, but it is asking Xbox players what PlayStation games you'd like to see come over. I said, what were the three that I picked? I said Spider-Man 2018, Days Gone, and there was another one. Oh, I might have been the Uncharted collection, which, why not? Bring them all over at this point. Will I buy them? Yeah. You know what? Unlike a lot of the PlayStation players who claim to actually play games, they don't. That's a proven fact because their trophies are hidden. But all of these games I own. They're literally in steel boxes to my right. And guess what? I buy them all over again. and it's not going to cost a lot of money for Sony to port. And they're not releasing physical editions of these things. They're going to be digital downloads. You go to the store, you buy them, you play them. Great. Everyone wins. Sony wins. You win as a player. And people who don't have a PlayStation get to play PlayStation games. Win, 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 win. But, Jamie, I mean, look, I think it's safe to say, and I've said this before, and I want to reiterate the point, this seems almost a mirror's image of what happened to open up 2024 with the just 4 games. The way that they spoke, and again, folks, go watch. They're reading from cue cards. They're not shooting from the hip. This is pre-planned. The same it was with Xbox, and they're not even. Just read their eyes. You can see that they're looking at the cue cards. A lot of people miss that. Like, how do you get that? Because I know how to watch people. It's just what I did. It's what you do as a police officer. You got to watch, right? Look at their eyes. They're not reading or they're not speaking from experience or their own opinions. They're literally reading the cue cards that are being flashed in front of them. Jamie, let's get your thoughts, man.
I mean, if you can look at that, what we just saw, and think it bears no resemblance to the just 4 games thing we saw last year, like, come on. we could see it from a mile away. And the thing is, you're going to have one group of people that are going to be panicking. We've seen online this past week, people panicking, they're wondering what to do. They're like, they're trying to piece together this, non-existent puzzle and what they could mean. But the truth is, they've already done it. It's called Lego Horizon Adventures. People can say, oh, it's just a Lego game, but that doesn't matter. It's a non-live service game, and it launched on the Switch the day one. So why I don't understand why people continue to be surprised. Helldivers, huge release for PlayStation. Their only successful live service game in eons. It's coming to Xbox. So like, why? Excuse me. So why are people like denying it and being confused still? It's blatantly obvious. And like, I've talked about this many times. Like the console player base hasn't grown over 200 million players ever, right? And I hate the fact that I have to keep mentioning this, but like, you have about 200 million core gamers, we'll call it, on console. That number isn't growing. It's diminishing over time. You have these black hole games where these people, you'll ask them what's their favorite game, what do they own a PlayStation for, what do they own an Xbox for. They'll say Fortnite, they'll say Apex, they'll say Warzone. These free-to-play games, which they can just sink money into via microtransactions. The concept of playing a video game with a story is weird to them. They only play these free-to-play games. And these people are growing up and they're continuing to play free-to-play games, right? They're not moving on to other things. So, like, what? So who's going to be funding these single-player, big-budget games 15 years from now, 20 years from now? I've said it time and time again. We are the last of a dying breed, right? So how do you make more money? You expand to more platforms. Like, the thing about Microsoft is they have a tendency to step on rakes, but they are always first, right? In the early 2000s, they went with having broadband only with their original Xbox. A lot of people lost their marbles because, next to no one had broadband back then, right? Then with the Xbox 360, remember the digital marketplace? I remember the digital marketplace on 360. There was worries back then that people would be like, they'd be taking the ability to purchase discs. It didn't happen. They came out with the Kinect, right? It was a smart camera / which would have eventually been a speaker, but like they had a smart camera. And what happened a couple of years later? Smart cameras became a thing. Smart speakers became a thing, right? Microsoft tends to be a little bit too early, but they do set trends, right? And if you look at what they did with the multi-platform stuff, they started last year. They dabbled beforehand. They had Minecraft, the Outer Worlds 1,
right?
Went multi-platform. and people weren't panicking. But last year, people lost their marbles, but people kind of got over it pretty quickly. Like we've known that since 2016, Microsoft have been doing multi-platform stuff with PC, right? I got over that quick. I have no desire to play video games on a PC. I just don't. And the one game I do play on PC, it's just because it will never come to console, right? So, and I could cry myself to sleep at night knowing that'll never come to Xbox. But people got over it fairly quickly. But I think this was like, we've all seen how the volatile PlayStation crowd can act, right? Not PlayStation fans, the fanboys. They can be toxic. They can be very disturbing. And
unfortunately, you know that all too well.
Yeah, all too well. The stories I could say, which I can't, but wow. But I think this is their way of like sort of coddling their fan base, right? Because I always hear like, oh, we have to keep the community hyped, bring on the hype, right? So their fan base needs to be in a perpetual stage of hyped all the time, even though there's no roadmap for first-party games. So now, when there's no first-party roadmap, they are being told that, by the way, these games that you put in these list wars, they're going to go to other platforms. They have to ease them as gently as possible. Say, yeah, it's okay. You're going to be fine. Don't worry, right? They've got the training wheels on, they're wearing, some body armor. Like, it's okay. You're going to be fine, right? These are the games. You've had them for years already, but they might go elsewhere, right? Because in that video, they mentioned expanding to other consoles, right? Now, that's plural. They didn't just say Switch. And by the way, I love it how we live in this world where if a game just goes to Nintendo, it's not third party.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird energy.
It's dumb. I see journalists do this. It's like, so Xbox is third party, but Switch isn't if a game goes there. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So this is their way of easing their fan base to get used to the idea of it. Now, me personally, like I've been saying for ages, I think the two games that will come over next, or one of the two, will be Spider-Man or Days Gone. I think Days Gone, if anything, makes a lot of sense because, actually both of them really. Yeah, zombies, like open world zombie game, you have the State of Decay crowd on Xbox, which would buy it. And like, Spider-Man, we don't have an open world Spider-Man game that you could play on Xbox. Like the superhero game library on Xbox and both PlayStation really is absolutely dire, right? We have less than 10, right? And a couple of those are Lego Batman games. But I think, they're going to make a lot of money from doing this. People are going to freak out at first, saying like this is going to end the console. But it's like, and I've said this before, when these multi-platform things start popping up last year, and you have these people on Twitter go, right, I'm selling my Xbox, I'm moving platforms, blah, 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 blah. They are literally posting on social media saying, hey, look at me, I'm a clown, because I'm saying goodbye to my built-in library of 700+ games just so I can play it on a different piece of plastic that just so happens to have games locked to it. Like, really thinking about it, that doesn't make any sense, right? Do you know when these PlayStation rumors start popping up about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago? I saw people, and I won't mention names, that were contemplating switching, no pun intended, to the Switch 2 because they have true exclusives. That means you can only be a fan of a plastic box if the company that makes it locks their games to the platform. Like, saying it out loud, it sounds stupid because it is, right? I'm an Xbox fan. I have hundreds of games physically and digitally, right? There's millions of people like me. There's millions of people like me on PlayStation, on Nintendo, right? We have built-in libraries. We built into the ecosystem. We're part of a community. We have our achievements. They have their trophies, right? People are built into their ecosystems. So whenever someone says, I'm leaving console because, multi-platform stuff, it's for attention. Right? You're going to post a picture on Twitter of your console in a very clean bin. No, nothing else in this bin. Right? They post it on Twitter, and you know what they do afterwards? They plug it back in and they move on with their day because they want some free likes. Right? It's easy likes for console war fodder.
Yeah, it's engagement. Yeah.
Yeah, and I look at this video and it's like they preparing people, and that's completely fine. We have these games coming out that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, right? I keep mentioning this as well. The Witcher 4 is rumored to cost $400 million. Out of the gate, that game has to be a huge success, which it probably will be. But like, you have to have a sure hit with these games coming out now. Remember the Callisto Protocol? I had my issues with it, but that is a brand new IP by a brand new studio, and it cost like $150 million. $150 million for a indie studio's first AAA game, and it bombed, right? So, like, across the board, the industry's in shambles, right? You have AAA games coming out, not making money. You have companies not wanting to take risk with AAA games because it is risky. So we get the same regurgitated slop over and over again. And you have companies wondering why they aren't making their money back. So you have Microsoft, Sony, maybe looking elsewhere to port their games. Because guess what? Sony bought Nexus to port studio games. They've ported all their games to PC. The only thing that's left now is console. Those games will come. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the business meeting that we just watched, that was 2 minutes and I think 1 second long, is all you really need to know about what they're doing. And I really think that Helldivers 2 is going to lead the charge, Crispy Bomb, on why they're going to continue to do this. Because look, they have games that are older. They do have studios that haven't put out a new game, not a good game, a new game. And a perfect example of that is the developer for Days Gone, right? They haven't put out a game since Days Gone in 2019. Yeah, they had their game canceled. What do you do with that studio? Well, don't close them down because they're freaking phenomenally talented. So you get them to help port if it's not already been ported. Folks, again, we're talking about this today on August 12th. This decision was made 6 months ago. These ports take months and months worth of work, and maybe it's 7 months, maybe it's 4 months, because some of these games like Days Gone, like Spider-Man, like Horizon Zero Dawn, they've already been ported to PC. To port them to Xbox is not going to be a massive investment, and it's going to be just free money. I mean, you heard Shuhei Yoshida talking about how remasters are basically free money. Well, that's what these are going to be for Sony, and they need it. They absolutely need it. I want to get your thoughts, Crispy, on this particular point. This 2-minute video that we watched. I think it's clear that they are going third party. I don't care how you try to slice it. I saw a lot of people trying to dissect what one person said, then mix it with someone else. Take one sentence from this paragraph and put it over here. Again, I said it in the green room. The mental gymnastics that are going over right now with the Sony fanatics is wild. Absolutely wild. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Well, I get to stand on my hill of it, as I've always done.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it, what'd I say? Everybody's like, oh, Gears is coming over. Oh, Gears is dead. Oh, Xbox is dead because Gears is coming over. Oh, look, it's a game that's basically remastered again. Okay. And it's a 20-year-old game. Okay. And I'm going to be honest. Never played any of the Spider-Mans from Insomniac. I played older Spider-Mans before that. I believe Activision had the rights to that at that one point. You got to realize that the world is changing. And God forbid a company that has some game that is sitting on a shelf may not have sold well. Like, some of these games, I mean, I've seen some numbers from God of War when it went to PC. I've seen some games like, Days Gone. Like, Days Gone actually did pretty good on PC, I believe, once they did the remaster and everything else. These games that are single player they're not monetized, okay, which becomes a problem. I mean, people need to realize, okay, Helldivers is monetized, okay? They built a gas game, all right? It's PvE, but it's a gas game, all right? And they built it, and it's going to work really well. I fully believe that it's probably going to sell 2 million copies on Xbox. I feel it in my bones. It's a gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. This is not fact or anything else, but the way they're marketing makes total sense. So then you look at a Spider-Man. I mean, we're talking one of the most iconic Marvel characters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They still have the rights in some way to the games because they went into a contract. They don't have the rights outright, but what are they going to do to appease Disney? Why not release it on Xbox and see how many people like myself who never played the game, who love my look, I've had a PlayStation controller. Okay. I played PlayStation for 10 years. After 3.5 hours, my hands, no matter what game I was playing, would cramp up. If they change it, if they allow Xbox controller on there, maybe I would be interested. I guess there's some iterations that are out there. It's not my Elite Series 2. Sorry. Maybe that's going to change down the road, but other than that, I had no interest. I mean, I played it for 10 years, had my hands cramp up after 3.5 hours playing a single player game. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. And keep in mind, my hands never cramped up in the worst controller ever designed, which is the N64. So think about that. Even though it was smart when I would play 007 GoldenEye or something like that, because it worked perfectly for that type of stuff. And my hands felt, separated, and it didn't feel like I was like slamming my thumbs into each other. These are the things that I look at as far as a gamer, but at the end of the day, it's up to them. And realistically, they're kind of telling you, they're warming you up. Okay. Xbox warmed us up with that round table before. Even with the Bethesda thing, they started talking about that. Legacy titles are you got Doom the Dark Ages, PlayStation players. You got Doom Dark Ages because Doom has always been on PlayStation. Why would we change that? Why would we cause, like this anger because we didn't want to release Doom on there? Outer Worlds, you're getting Outer Worlds 2, PlayStation players. Enjoy that, because I think Obsidian's ready to like burst out the seams. They are just killing it, one after another in 1 year, and totally different games.
No, you're not wrong. Listen, Umbra, I want to segue into you, brother, because Chris brings up some great points about Xbox players who do subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate having extra money to buy games on other platforms. Well, it turns out that based on this business meeting, Sony's going to want the same success that they're seeing Xbox have on their own store. Like I said, we've already talked about it to death. 6 of the top 10 best-selling games on PlayStation are Xbox games. The best-selling game on PlayStation in 2025 is a 4-year-old game, which says that players want new experiences, even if they come from another platform. And I've said this, and I've gotten a lot of pushback from some people in the community. I think the same success, Umbra, that Microsoft is having by putting their games onto PlayStation, I think PlayStation could see an equal, potentially even more success. Because again, Helldivers 2 got a lot of people excited. People jumped on it. I bought the minute it became available. The minute they said Helldivers 2 on Xbox, I bought it. I doubled it. you're going to triple dip. But so someone bought it for you on PC, but that's still money spent, right? So that's you're going to have 3 versions of it, and you're happy to do it. You add some ODST goodness to it. Give me a $20 pack to buy. You got my money. But this business meeting is clear as day, showing, and Jamie made mention of it, easing the community in because they get very upset and they get very excited. Their community is no different than what happened with Xbox. I'm being fair here. Like, I really believe everything you're seeing happen with Sony, the infighting, the people leaving the platform, the people saying I'm going to PC, the freakouts, the breakouts, the crashing, that all happened with Xbox 2 years ago, right? We saw it happen in real time. It's happening now, today, has been happening for the last couple of weeks. There's people in denial. There's people saying, twisting, again, doing these incredible gymnastic flips to try and, change what's happening. Folks, it's nothing to change. They want to make money. And I think Sony is going to see the same type of success that Xbox had if they release certain games. Days Gone would be a big seller. I think something like Ratchet and Clank would be a big seller. I think Spider-Man is going to be good for 5 million people to buy it on Xbox, especially if it's a $50 price. What were your thoughts? What were your personal takeaways from this, quote unquote, business meeting for Sony?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone was kind of paying attention, the parallels are kind of obvious. You see,
they're 1-to-1, dude.
It's almost really 1-to-1, right? You look at Phil and Sarah, uncomfortably sitting there, and at their first discussion, talking, oh, it's just 4 games. Blah blah blah. A lot of people feel got a lot of heat for that. Oh, he's a liar. He said just 4 games, and I'm like, as it happened, I'm telling people it's not just going to be 4 games. It was obvious, right? Like they're testing the waters. This is their 4 games moment right here. It's just 4 games, and you can tell that because of the way Herman Hulst said a few things. Oh, they're doing a thoughtful approach to their single player first party franchises, bringing them over to other platforms and things like that. And what did Nishino say? He said because he kind of backed it, but in a different way. He was how did he say it? He said that he said almost something that Phil would say, which is PlayStation. Well, I want to emphasize that PlayStation is the best place to play. Like very, very similar kind of wording and way they phrase these things. You don't get like the heads of PlayStation and jumping into some type of little chat like that where they have to kind of break the news to, prospective fans and fans alike, unless you're making some type of major shift. They already talk about how they're shifting away from a hardware specific kind of thought process to a more software and MAU focused one. And it's pretty obvious at that point then that they're following Microsoft's playbook, as Sony has want to do over the decades. We've all seen it. And I'm not even saying that to throw shade. I'm just saying that they see where the smart money is essentially in what Microsoft tends to do, and they might not do it immediately, but they will follow. The whole fiasco with the Xbox One launch, Sony was right there about to do the DRM thing and the whole camera packed in until they waited and say, let's see how Microsoft fares. And then they were like, oops, what camera and what DRM? This is how you share games on PlayStation. They were smart. And so being smart, they waited to see how Microsoft would do here with bringing their games to other platforms and being a more of a open third-party publisher. Well, they're doing the same. They're just doing it slow, right? They're doing it slowly. And I would say it makes sense for them, for their business model, because they don't have their, how do I say this? I guess their hooks and talons put into so many different ways yet as Xbox and Microsoft does with Windows and things like that. So Sony is playing catch up, so to speak, but they see where the money is. They see that bringing it and putting your games everywhere is going to increase your what's the word I want to use, your bottom line. You look at even what's his name, Totoki. When you go back and just read the things he was saying,
Yep.
It's corporal speak, a lot of that, but it's pretty obvious that he's alluding to, you guys aren't enough. We're going to put these games everywhere. At the end of the day, it's business for them, and if you get past once you get past the thought of I guess a tribal connection to that platform, you start to open up to understanding it. And since I've moved on to being, specifically more PC agnostic, I understand and see it differently. And before where I'd probably have been like, oh no, don't you dare bring Halo over there, right? Maybe years ago. But after seeing how Microsoft kept moving and were bringing games to other platforms, I understood it and was like, hey, it is what it is. My console warrior, the little console warrior brain I may have had at that point, I never was really deep into that, but I definitely always have tribalism. I think if you've grown into playing any platform for so long, and not everyone, of course, but a lot of people tend to have a kind of a tribal connection to that specific thing, and to see it kind of deviate from the traditional mindset of exclusivity that we've been trained to feel that consoles should offer, you start to feel away once you see like, hey, Master Chief popping up on PlayStation. It's the same. It's no different than seeing Sonic pop up on Nintendo. There was that same feeling back then. And if anyone remembers the whole Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo battle and such like that back in the day, Sega does what Nintendo don't and stuff like that. So like these things, this is not new. This is what we've been trained to feel. So now we're facing this kind of brainwashing, if you will, this unconditioning or deconditioning, if you will, when it comes to this. And some people it's harder for them to I guess not acquiesce to get in line with and to understand than others. You know what I mean? So that's why you're seeing a lot of pushback. That's why you're seeing a lot of doubt. You're seeing a lot of denial, and denial is one of the first steps. I mean, you saw.
I think we're at the acceptance stage.
You think so? I don't know. I still think now. To be fair, I have seen a lot of to your point, a lot of the diehard PlayStation mouthpiece have kind of accepted. To be fair to you, but I've seen some of the lower end hooligans on that side still like, nope, but they have become a little quieter over time. I'll give you that. It seems less toxic from what I used to see. But I think, there has been some of the bigger mouthpieces, if you will, on, like, for instance, on Twitter. Now, Twitter doesn't speak for everything, obviously.
Right.
But just to kind of say, look, somebody posted somebody in the chat there. Some of them
says it all the time that the internet isn't real. So
listen. Hey, well, I don't even want to start on Paris because he might jump in and like, well, what's that? But
Paris.
Right. Well, as I always say, let me stop. But no, just to say that.
Stop it. But he's somewhere. We said his name 3 times. Let me get it. Where the chat? Is he here? He might be here. He's probably here.
Let me stop messing with him. He came on the show Saturday with me and Kay and was like, and set me up and was like, oh, when is your 100th episode that he's talking about jumping in? He's like, oh, make sure you let me know.
He's gonna roast you on your.
Yeah, he said, make sure you let me know so I won't be.
Oh, look, Sin did it. He said Paris. He's gonna show. Oh, look, so did Jake Williams. Oh my God, the Candy Man is gonna show up. He's been showing up in almost all of my chats, and he's been trolling a little bit. Like, Xbox is dead. You bunch of.
I'm doing that. Yeah,
that's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I think, and then to him, I think he's taking a bit of a victory lap because I mean, if he spoke on that with Xbox for a long time, and he saw the signs too. If anyone has been paying relative attention, it was kind of obvious. And by the way, the whole thought of Sony doing a third party now, well, like as was said by Crispy and Jamie, like as if Nintendo doesn't count. Like Sony had brought their game over to Nintendo. Like that didn't count for third party.
No, for some people, it didn't, which is
Yeah,
pretty
they tried it.
ridiculous.
I think it was denial, right? Like, oh, well, that's
Yeah.
just one game. It's the same thing we had over here. Well, it's just 4 games. It's the same thing, and Sony right here is testing the waters. So the things that Nishino or specifically Hulst in this situation is saying about, hey, well, it's not basic. In so many words, it's not every game. It's a thoughtful approach. Again, Sony has a different way they have to approach this. To be fair to them, they do. And it could, they have more of they still sell through a lot of their hardware. So I get why they wouldn't be quick to be like, oh, we don't want it. We'll just put it everywhere. Because once you do that, you could possibly lose out on hardware sales, right? So they have to be mindful. I get it. But once the bottom line, I think, starts to flatten out once they get to every other platform, if you will, and they start selling through so much that the hardware doesn't matter, what then? Because that's where Microsoft is at right now. The hardware, they don't sell crazy hardware, but they're doing well. Like you said, 6 of the top 10 on PlayStation. They're selling well on PC. They're doing well on Xbox. And then we talk about all the microtransactions and things of that nature. It's not like they're suffering over there. So like the whole talk of, the third party or they're third place, like that's always the one that fanboys ran to. Well, they're third place, blah, blah, blah. Well, third place and making billions is not that bad of a deal, I think.
No.
You know what I mean? So, I think, Sony's going to have a more deliberate approach. They're not going to throw everything. And Xbox hasn't dropped and thrown everything, but mind you, there's no Avowed on PlayStation. There is no South of Midnight on PlayStation. I would still venture to say Elder Scrolls 6 may be exclusive for a time into like a 6 months to a year, just like they did, with other games such as Hellblade, such as Indiana Jones and things like that. But I think the thought of, this whole like exclusive thing is definitely going away. And I get it. Like I said, we've grown into the thought of traditional exclusivity and how that mattered to the platform of your choice. But now this is kind of changing. It's changing. It's different now. And I think we'll just see. We have to see how that plays out. I know it's scary for some, but I think that I like the future of where it's going in a way, honestly. And I said this before with next gen, hearing the capabilities of what the next Xbox will likely bring, aside from us already knowing that they'll have these other storefronts. To me, that's one of the most major, like, if I had to point to, oh, this is a killer app, that's a killer app. If you have a way you can get all these storefronts and your platform is going to be so powerful that it's, comparable to a PC at that point, flat out, and to me, that's a major selling point. And so it would behoove Sony to get ahead of this a bit and say, hey, we'll offer you our games to sell you right here and cut out the middleman of Steam or something like that and just put it right on a platform or start up their own storefront and sell it that way. Like there's ways I feel like they can mitigate having to go through a third party to get their games over. And I'm pretty sure Sony is looking into ways of doing that. And why not have it where they can sell this and get as much money as they can for those games? The cost of making the games they make has already pushed them into that territory. That's the thing, and I think we tend to overlook that. Like these is as Sean Layden kept emphasizing, it's not sustainable. Well, it's definitely not if you're going to only stick to one platform and the PlayStation guys are not buying 30 million versions of The Last of Us or 40 million. It's like the ridiculous numbers that we end up seeing Nintendo sell through for their games. It's not as crazy as I still don't understand how Nintendo sells the way they do at times. I look at Mario Kart World and it's like a
Mario Kart is almost 1-to-1, dude.
It's almost a 98% like attachment rate. Like, come on. And that's not even just bundled. Like they've had like 1 million plus and maybe 2 million now in sales of Mario Kart World unbundled, which is insane. It's $80 a piece.
Yep.
Insane. And they don't go on sale. So like, I think that Nintendo can still get away with that for now. I don't know if Microsoft and Sony can. And I think they're adapting to that. Well, I don't think, well, Microsoft, we clearly see it, but I think Sony is slowly following their footsteps into this new world, if you will. And I'm excited to see it. And if we're talking about games that we think that would do super well on the platform, you all named a bunch of them. I mean, Spider-Man is an obvious one, right? Spider-Man is obvious. It is a Spider-Man himself is a worldwide, universally loved character. Microsoft, I mean not Microsoft, excuse me, Marvel. I had already said well back in the past that it would make more sense knowing how Marvel and Disney is and how they want all the money they can get, and how we saw how they raised their asking share price from Sony when we saw those leaks from Insomniac. It would have made more sense if they put a bit of the squeeze on Sony, saying, hey, we're going to need much more when it comes to these. And now they know they have to sell so many copies of Spider-Man to put it everywhere. That's why you start seeing them go to PC. What better way to get those sales where you need them to be, and you still be profitable on top of paying off that licensing, than putting it everywhere. And I don't think that hurts Sony in that case. So that right there with Spider-Man, you can see it. People have often said it. I think you've even said it, Boom, that Wolverine would go day and date likely to Xbox. I mean,
it's possible. Why wouldn't you? You got to remember, on the back end of what you're talking about, the development cost. Remember, that game is already hundreds of millions of dollars in the hole because of the leaks, right? They got to recode that entire game. Marvel just upped the ante from 25% to 35%, Umbra. They got to make that money, bro.
They got to make the money. It is not cheap. Disney wants all them. Disney has long been one of those companies that get to squeeze all of the money out of whatever, right? They're going to squeeze the blood from a stone, as they would say. Yeah, that's Disney. And so Spider-Man being one of the most profitable characters of all time, I think he still has number one merchandising across the world.
He makes so much money, it's almost
possible. And he's had it for decades now.
Yeah.
It used to be, the Batmans and the Supermans, and if you talk about most iconic, obviously maybe Superman, but Spider-Man is right there. He's right there. And as far as merchandising, he's number one. He's been that way for a long time. So I can imagine, if you have that as a company, you want your money for that character. Why limit that character when you could be getting so much more money with them, right? And you look at Wolverine. Wolverine was one of Marvel's probably second best or second most beloved character at the time. I don't know where.
I mean, at one point, I think we were all on the same page. Like X2 was like amazing. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some nostalgia to Wolverine. I think personally, like, Disney's at a crossroads, and also, like, unfortunately for Sony, like, they still own that IP as far as the gaming aspect. So what are they going to do? Because Sony has to appease them in some way. Kind of like everybody brings up MLB, but MLB was feeling like, you guys aren't doing enough for us. Like we get licenses and everything else from you. Like, what are you doing for us? And then they put it in Game Pass. I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying Spider-Man's going to Game Pass, but what I'm saying is like, maybe Disney's like, can you at least release it on Xbox? Like,
look at, to your point, Crispy, look at what they got. Indiana Jones coming over to PlayStation.
Yeah,
it makes sense. And that's why I think has always emphasized where he didn't really, and this is why so many different things connect for me mentally, even though it might not, it's conjecture, but Phil he doesn't care for licensing in gaming, right?
Yeah, he's always been against it.
He's been against it. Now you have Indiana Jones when they absorbed, obviously, Bethesda. And so they did the best they could with it. Great game, obviously. But then there's Disney on the back end. It's like, well, might need to get you some little more money out that license. Okay, well, to PlayStation you go. And that's probably why Phil didn't want that. And this is why I said that. And I say all this to say, this is why I believe people over him forced the whole going third-party publisher thing, right? So this right here is, I think, as the Trojan horse, as funny as it may sound, Spider-Man was that Trojan horse. It wasn't necessarily planned that way, but it's what has kind of I think helped force them into this third party publisher thing, knowing they have so much money on that right there that they have to earn in. And then you have all the games that they're making, like I was saying before, that cost hundreds of millions to make. The Last of Us was not cheap to make, right? Intergalactic that they're making is not going to be cheap. That's probably a $300 or $400 million game, right? And the developers you have on it with, so like in the upcoming Sony what's the word I'm looking for? Sony San Diego team game, the people who made with Barlog, with people who made the God of War,
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, thank you. Could not think of that. I'm San Diego. What is it? Santa Monica. Sony, I couldn't know what someone would ask. They like those games, the game that he's making there, that's going to be hundreds of millions. At what point, are they going to be like, okay, what's our profit from this? And what better way to get that profit back? And in shorter time too, from a 6-month window, maybe when they bring it over to other platforms, to a year, than to put it everywhere. It just makes business sense for them at a point. And it, as the old saying is, facts before feelings. Well, now it's business before feelings, because that's what it's going to end up being, I think.